My name is Nadia Wilson, and at 32 years old, I never expected to be standing on my family's doorstep, tears streaming down my face, as my own mother tells me I'm not welcome at Thanksgiving dinner. "We weren't expecting you, go away, loser." The words cut deeper than any knife, especially when I had driven 8 hours to surprise them after 3 years abroad. I had no idea that this rejection would lead to the most satisfying revenge I'd ever orchestrated in my life. Before I tell you this unbelievable story, let me know where you're watching from and subscribe to join our community of survivors. Growing up in the Wilson family, I always knew my place. I was the responsible one, the achiever, the planner. My younger sister Amanda was the golden child, always receiving praise and attention for even the most mediocre accomplishments. When I got straight A's in high school, my parents nodded and said, "That's what we expect from you." When Amanda managed to get B's and C's, there were celebrations and ice cream and constant praise about how she was really applying herself. I remember the time I won first place in the state science fair in 10th grade. My project on sustainable energy solutions earned me a scholarship and recognition from several universities. My parents attended the ceremony but left immediately after to make it to Amanda's soccer game, where she spent most of the time on the bench. They missed the awards dinner and my acceptance speech. When I got home later that night, they were celebrating Amanda's team's win with cake, even though she had barely played. Despite the favoritism, I loved my family and worked hard to maintain our relationships. After graduating with honors from college, I accepted a position with an international financial firm in London. It was the opportunity of a lifetime, one that would establish my career and give me valuable global experience. My parents seemed almost relieved when I announced I was moving abroad, as if my achievements made them uncomfortable. During my 3 years in London, communication with my family became increasingly sporadic. I would call every Sunday, but the conversations grew shorter. My parents were always rushing off to something related to Amanda, and Amanda herself rarely took my calls. Still, I sent thoughtful gifts for birthdays and holidays. I made sure to remember important events and sent money when needed. Most significantly, I had been secretly sending Amanda money every month to help with her rent. Amanda had moved into her own apartment about 2 years ago, claiming she had landed a fantastic marketing job that was paying her well. She posted constantly on social media about her success and her amazing apartment in the city. What the family didn't know was that her amazing apartment was being subsidized by me. Amanda had reached out in a panic when she was facing eviction after spending her first 3 paychecks on clothes and vacations instead of rent. Rather than see her homeless or have her move back with our parents, I agreed to send her money monthly to cover the difference between what she could afford and her actual rent. I made her promise to become more financially responsible, and she swore she was working on it. Despite the distance, I found myself missing home. London was exciting and my career was thriving, but around the holidays, I felt the absence of family traditions and familiar faces. When I received a significant promotion to senior financial analyst, I decided it was time to celebrate with the people who had known me longest. I would surprise them for Thanksgiving, share my good news, and reconnect with the family I hadn't seen in 3 years. The planning process filled me with excitement and nostalgia. I carefully selected gifts for each family member, spending hours finding items that would be meaningful to them. For my father, a rare first edition of his favorite author's book. For my mother, a handcrafted silk scarf from a famous London designer. For Amanda, a collection of high-end cosmetics from brands she was always posting about on social media. I rehearsed conversations in my head, imagining their reactions to seeing me after so long. Would they notice how I'd changed? Would they be proud of my accomplishments? I practiced the announcement of my promotion, hoping for just one moment of genuine pride and celebration focused on me. The anxiety built as the trip approached. 3 years is a long time, and relationships change. What if they had grown too accustomed to my absence? What if the emotional distance I felt in our calls had deepened? Still, I reminded myself that they were family, and family ties run deep. Time apart doesn't erase the fundamental connections between people who share blood and history. I believed, perhaps naively, that my return might actually improve our family dynamics. Distance often provides perspective, and maybe they had grown to appreciate me more in my absence. Maybe Amanda had matured, and we could build a more equal adult relationship. Maybe my parents had realized their favoritism and were ready to value both their daughters equally. With these thoughts bolstering my confidence, I finalized my travel plans, arranged for time off work, and prepared for a joyful reunion that would heal old wounds and create new memories. The journey home was a bittersweet experience. As I drove through my hometown, memories flooded back with each familiar landmark. The high school where I'd excelled academically but felt invisible socially. The park where I'd spent countless hours reading while Amanda played sports with our parents, cheering from the sidelines. The local library that had been my sanctuary when home felt too confining. The town had changed in subtle ways during my absence. The old movie theater had been renovated now, sporting a sleek modern facade. A new shopping center stood where empty lots once were. But the essence of the place remained the same, a small American town with tree-lined streets and neighborly waves. I made a detour to stop at Rosie's Flower Shop, a local institution that had been around since before I was born. Rosie herself was behind the counter looking exactly as I remembered her, perhaps with a few more gray hairs. "Nadia Wilson, look at you all grown up and sophisticated," she exclaimed when I walked in. "Hi, Rosie, it's great to see you," I replied, warmed by her genuine welcome. "What brings you back to town? Your folks didn't mention you were visiting." "It's a surprise," I explained, selecting a gorgeous arrangement of fall flowers. "They have no idea I'm coming for Thanksgiving." "Oh my, they'll be so thrilled," Rosie said, carefully wrapping the bouquet. "Your mom was in here just yesterday, picking up a centerpiece for the table. She's expecting quite a crowd," she said. That news made me even more excited. A crowd meant extended family would be there, aunts and uncles and cousins I hadn't seen in years. My surprise would be even more dramatic and joyful. I also picked up a bottle of expensive champagne from the local liquor store, imagining us all toasting to my return and my professional success. As I approached our family home, my heartbeat accelerated. The familiar two-story colonial looked exactly as I remembered, though Mom had painted the shutters a different color. The driveway was indeed full of cars, confirming what Rosie had said about a crowd for dinner. I recognized my father's sedan and my mother's SUV, along with several other vehicles that presumably belonged to extended family. I parked on the street, gathered my gifts, flowers, and champagne, and approached the front door. Through the windows, I could see warm light spilling out and caught glimpses of movement inside. The sound of laughter and conversation reached me before I even rang the doorbell. Taking a deep breath to calm my nerves, I pressed the button and waited, a smile fixed on my face in anticipation of their shock and delight. The door swung open, and my mother stood there in her holiday apron. Her expression moved rapidly from a welcoming smile meant for an expected guest to shock at seeing me, and then inexplicably to something that looked like dismay. "Nadia, what are you doing here?" she asked, making no move to welcome me in or embrace me. "Surprise," I said, my enthusiasm faltering slightly at her reaction. "I came home for Thanksgiving." Before she could respond, my father appeared behind her, his face showing the same progression of expressions: welcome, shock, dismay. "You didn't tell us you were coming," he said, his tone accusatory rather than pleased. "That's what makes it a surprise," I said, trying to keep my voice light, despite the growing knot in my stomach. I wanted to see everyone and share some good news. By now, other family members had gathered in the hallway behind my parents, curious about the unexpected visitor. I saw my aunt and uncle, a couple of cousins, and then Amanda pushed her way forward. Her eyes widened at the sight of me, and I could swear I saw panic flash across her face. That's when I noticed a stranger standing close beside her, a woman about my age, with her hand resting comfortably on Amanda's shoulder in a gesture of intimacy. They were wearing matching sweaters, and the woman wore a necklace identical to one I had sent Amanda for her birthday. "Who's at the door?" someone called from deeper in the house. My mother turned slightly and replied, "It's Nadia. She's shown up unannounced." The way she said it, like I was an inconvenience rather than her daughter, sent a chill through me. I stood there, arms full of gifts, as an awkward silence descended. Finally, Amanda stepped forward, her voice unnaturally bright. "Nadia, what a surprise. We weren't expecting you." "Clearly," I said, still trying to understand their reaction. But I thought you'd be happy to see me. It's been 3 years. That's when my mother said the words that would forever change our relationship. We weren't expecting you go away, loser. I froze, certain I had misheard. But the uncomfortable expressions on everyone's faces told me I hadn't. My own mother had just called me a loser and told me to go away from a family gathering. I looked past her into the dining room and saw the table set for dinner. I counted the places. There were exactly enough for the people already in the house. No room had been left for the daughter who had been away for 3 years. They hadn't set a place for me, not even symbolically. I was completely absent from their holiday plans. As I stood there processing this rejection, I noticed the stranger beside Amanda whisper something in her ear, and Amanda nodded. Then the stranger spoke up, addressing me directly. "I'm Jordan," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Amanda's new sister. It's nice to finally meet you, though we weren't expecting visitors today." New sister. The words hit me like a physical blow. Amanda had replaced me with someone else, and my parents had accepted this person into the family fold. The woman was sitting in my place wearing jewelry I had gifted to my sister, and referring to herself as family while I stood outside like a stranger. My father shifted uncomfortably and started to say something, but my mother cut him off. "Nadia, this really isn't a good time. We have a full house and dinner is almost ready. Maybe we can meet up tomorrow for coffee or something." The door was already closing literally and figuratively on my place in the family. They were shutting me out on Thanksgiving, turning away their own daughter. In favor of a stranger they were calling a new sister. I stood in the driveway, flowers and gifts still in my arms, as the reality of what had just happened began to sink in. The shock was so complete that for a moment I felt nothing at all, as if my emotional system had shut down to protect me from the pain. Then, like a dam breaking, feelings crashed over me in overwhelming waves. My first instinct was to leave immediately, to drive away and never look back. Why stay where I clearly wasn't wanted? I turned toward my car, tears blurring my vision, when a sudden thought stopped me in my tracks. Amanda was living in an apartment that I was helping to pay for. Every month for the past 2 years, I had been transferring money directly into her account to cover her rent, believing I was helping my sister get on her feet. And this was how she repaid me, by replacing me in the family with someone else, by standing silently while our mother rejected me and called me a loser, all while continuing to accept my financial support. A strange calm settled over me as I made a decision. I wouldn't slink away in shame and hurt. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of dismissing me so easily. I had come too far, sacrificed too much, and frankly invested too much money in this relationship to be discarded like yesterday's trash. I took a deep breath, wiped away my tears, and marched back to the door. I rang the doorbell again, hearing the conversation inside pause at the interruption. After a moment, the door opened just enough for my mother's face to appear, her expression a mix of annoyance and discomfort. "Nadia, I thought I made it clear." I cut her off, my voice steady and controlled. "Yes, you made it perfectly clear that I'm not welcome at this family dinner. I understand that now, and I'll respect your wishes." She looked relieved, starting to close the door again. "Fine, but now you'll pay my sister's rent," I continued, causing her to freeze mid-motion. "What are you talking about?" she asked, opening the door wider. I could see confusion on her face, and behind her, Amanda had gone pale. "For the past 2 years, I've been paying half of Amanda's rent every month," I explained loud enough for everyone in the hallway to hear. $2,200 transferred directly to her account on the first of every month. That's $52,800 total so far. My mother's eyes widened in shock. She turned to look at Amanda, who was staring at the floor, unable to meet anyone's gaze. "Is this true?" my father asked, stepping forward. Before Amanda could answer, I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. I have all the transactions right here, with dates and confirmation numbers. I'd be happy to show you. "That's Private Nadia." Amanda finally spoke, her voice small and defensive. "Is it? I thought family didn't have secrets," I replied, gesturing toward Jordan. Isn't that what sisters are for? To help each other? To be honest with each other? The uncomfortable silence that followed was deafening. Family members exchanged glances, clearly processing this new information. I didn't know you were struggling with rent, my mother said to Amanda, confusion evident in her tone. I'm not struggling, Amanda protested weakly. Nadia offered to help. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal, I echoed. Over $50,000 isn't a big deal. That's more than some people make in a year, Amanda. And I sent it because you told me you were in danger of being evicted. You said your marketing job wasn't paying enough yet, but you were working hard and just needed temporary help. I turned back to my parents. Meanwhile, she's been telling you all how successful she is, hasn't she? Posting on social media about her amazing career and apartment, while I've been quietly covering her expenses so she can keep up appearances. The look of betrayal on my parents' faces would have been satisfying if I wasn't so hurt myself. They had believed Amanda's facade without question, while ignoring my actual achievements. I came here today to tell you about my promotion at work. I continued, my voice gaining strength. To celebrate with my family after 3 years away. Instead, I find out I've been replaced by someone else, that my own mother sees me as a loser, and that my sister has been lying to everyone while taking my money. I put my phone away and looked each of them in the eye. As of today, the payments stop. Amanda, you have 30 days to figure out how to pay your full rent, which should be plenty of time if your job is as amazing as you claim. If not, perhaps your new sister can help you out. With that, I placed the flowers and gifts on the doorstep, turned, and walked back to my car with my head held high. Behind me, I could hear raised voices as the family began to argue among themselves. I didn't look back as I drove away, but in my rearview mirror, I could see my father standing in the driveway watching me leave with an expression I couldn't quite decipher. In that moment, I felt something shift inside me. The hurt was still there, but alongside it was a growing sense of power. For the first time in my life, I had stood up for myself against my family's mistreatment. I had exposed a truth they had been comfortably ignoring. And I had set a boundary that I knew I would enforce, no matter how difficult it might be. I checked into a hotel instead of making the long drive back immediately, needing time to process everything that had happened. As I sat on the edge of the bed in the quiet room, I finally allowed myself to feel the full impact of the day's events. The tears came then, hot and fast sobs racking my body, as I grieved for the family I had thought I had, and the welcome I had so naively expected. The hotel room felt both like a sanctuary and a prison, as I sat alone with my grief. The sterile white walls and generic artwork offered no comfort, but at least here I could fall apart without an audience. I cried until my eyes burned and my throat felt raw, purging years of pent-up hurt and disappointment. When the storm of tears finally subsided, I found myself staring at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. My eyes were swollen makeup streaked down my cheeks, hair disheveled. I barely recognized myself, and that seemed fitting. The person I had been before walking up to that door no longer existed. She had been naive, clinging to an idealized version of family that had never matched reality. I washed my face, changed into comfortable clothes, and ordered room service, though I had no appetite. Then I did what I always did in times of crisis. I called Jessica, my best friend from London, the person who had become more like family to me than my actual relatives. Despite the time difference, she answered on the second ring. Nadia, is everything okay? Isn't it Thanksgiving there? They turned me away, Jess, I said, my voice cracking as I recounted the entire humiliating scene. My own mother called me a loser and told me to go away. Jessica's outrage was immediate and validating. She swore creatively in her British accent, calling my family every name in the book, and then inventing some new ones. Those bloody ungrateful wankers, after everything you've done for them, after you've been sending Amanda money every month, I told you she was taking advantage of you. You were right, I admitted. I should have listened. What are you going to do now? I've already done it. I told them I'm cutting Amanda off financially, effective immediately. No more rent payments, no more bailouts, nothing. Good for you, Jessica exclaimed, But that's just step one. You need a complete plan for dealing with them going forward. Going forward, I repeated. I'm not sure there is a going forward after this. Maybe it's better to just cut all ties. Maybe, Jessica agreed. But they're not going to let $50,000+ walk away that easily. Amanda is going to panic when she realizes you're serious. Your parents are going to try to fix this, if only to keep Amanda's gravy train running. You need to be prepared for their attempts to manipulate you back into the old pattern. She was right, of course. This wasn't the end of the drama, just the beginning of a new phase. I needed to be ready for the inevitable fallout. Start documenting everything, Jessica advised. Save all texts, emails, voicemails. If they claim you promised the money as a gift, you'll need evidence it was understood as temporary assistance. We talked for over an hour, Jessica helping me strategize, and more importantly, reminding me of my worth beyond my family's narrow perception. By the time we hung up, I had the beginnings of a plan and felt marginally more centered. Still restless, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone. Family gatherings, holidays, birthdays. I studied them with new eyes, noticing patterns I had previously ignored or rationalized away. In almost every group photo, I was on the periphery, while Amanda was center stage. There were dozens of pictures of Amanda with our parents where I wasn't present at all. Even more telling were the social media posts I discovered from previous years. Thanksgiving dinners I had been told were just immediate family, that actually included aunts, uncles, cousins, and various friends. Christmas celebrations that had been low-key, according to my parents, but appeared quite festive and well-attended in Amanda's photos. The evidence was undeniable. I hadn't merely been excluded today. I had been systematically pushed to the margins of my family for years. While I had been working hard, achieving goals, and even supporting Amanda financially from across an ocean, they had been creating a life that deliberately excluded me. The pain of this realization was different from the raw hurt of the initial rejection. This was deeper, a fundamental rewiring of my understanding of my place in the world. But alongside the pain was something unexpected relief. There was freedom in finally seeing the truth, in no longer needing to contort myself to fit into a family narrative that had never had space for me. As the night progressed, my phone began to light up with notifications. Text messages, missed calls, voicemails, all from family members, with Amanda's name appearing most frequently. I silenced the phone, not ready to engage. Whatever crisis was unfolding in the wake of my departure would have to wait until morning. Tonight was for me, for beginning the process of redefining myself apart from the family identity that had always diminished me. I fell asleep eventually, emotionally exhausted, but with a strange sense of possibility. For the first time in my life, I was completely free of the obligation to seek approval I would never receive. Whatever came next would be entirely on my terms. Morning brought more missed calls and increasingly desperate messages. I read through them over coffee, noting the progression from anger to concern to outright panic, especially from Amanda. It seemed the reality of losing my financial support was setting in quickly. My parents' messages were more focused on damage control, attempting to minimize what had happened, and suggesting we talk things through like adults. None of the messages contained what I was looking for, a genuine apology or acknowledgement of how deeply they had hurt me. It was all about fixing the situation, not addressing the underlying patterns of exclusion and disregard. I decided to maintain my silence for now. Let them worry. Let them feel a fraction of the uncertainty I had felt, standing on that doorstep being told I wasn't welcome. I checked out of the hotel, but instead of heading back to the airport, I extended my rental car and decided to stay in town a few more days. This wasn't over yet, and I wouldn't leave until I had said everything I needed to say. The fallout was immediate and dramatic. By that afternoon, Amanda showed up at my hotel, having apparently called every lodging option in town until she found me. The front desk called to inform me she was in the lobby, insisting on seeing me. I considered refusing, but decided it was better to face her directly. When she knocked on my door, I opened it to find her looking disheveled and desperate, nothing like the polished social media persona she cultivated. "Can I come in?" she asked, her voice small. I stepped aside silently, allowing her into the room, but not offering any warmth. Nadia, you have to understand, she began immediately, words tumbling out in a rush. Jordan isn't really my new sister or anything. That was just a joke that got out of hand. She's just a really good friend who's been helping me through some stuff. A friend who wears the necklace I sent you for your birthday, I asked coolly. A friend who your family welcomes to Thanksgiving while turning away your actual sister. Amanda flushed, unable to meet my eyes. It's complicated. Jordan and I met at work and we just really connected. Mom and Dad really like her, and she doesn't have family in town, so we invited her for holidays. It's not like she's replacing you. Except she was sitting in my place at the table, I pointed out, wearing my gifts, being called your sister, while I was told to go away. That was Mom being dramatic, Amanda protested weakly. You know how she gets when her plans are disrupted. She didn't mean it. She called me a loser, Amanda, to my face, on her doorstep, after I flew across an ocean and drove 8 hours to surprise my family for Thanksgiving. Amanda had no response to that, just looked down at her hands. But we're not here to talk about that, are we? I continued. We're here because you're worried about your rent. Her head snapped up. It's not just about the money. I was shocked to see you, that's all. It's been so long and you didn't tell us you were coming. That's what a surprise is, I replied flatly. And it's absolutely about the money. You've been living beyond your means for 2 years, presenting a successful image to everyone while I quietly foot the bill. Now you're facing the reality of your financial situation and you're panicking. I'm not panicking, she insisted, though her fidgeting hands and nervous expression said otherwise. I just think you're overreacting. One bad moment at the door and you're cutting me off completely. One bad moment, I repeated incredulously. Amanda, you stood there while our mother rejected me and said nothing. You've been taking my money for years while excluding me from family events. You've created this alternative family dynamic where some stranger is more welcome than I am. This isn't one bad moment. This is the culmination of a lifetime of being treated as less than. That's not fair, she began, but I cut her off. What's not fair is working 60-hour weeks to build my career, while sending money home to support you, only to discover I've been financing my own replacement in the family. Amanda's face crumpled, tears welling up. I never meant for any of this to happen. Things just evolved with Jordan, and it was easier to go along with it than to explain. Explain what? I pressed. That my successful big sister was secretly supporting me because I'm a failure. She burst out, tears flowing freely now. That my marketing job barely pays enough to cover food and utilities, that I maxed out my credit cards trying to keep up with my friends, that without you, I'd probably be homeless. Her admission hung in the air between us. For the first time, she was being completely honest about her situation. So you lied to everyone, I said quietly. She nodded miserably. I told Mom and Dad I got a big promotion. I told my friends I was killing it at work. I posted only the good moments on social media and acted like everything was perfect. And I took your money every month because I was desperate and you seemed so successful that I figured you wouldn't miss it. $52,800, Amanda. That's not pocket change. I know, she whispered. I know it's a lot. And I know I've been terrible to you. But please, Nadia, I can't lose my apartment. I have nowhere else to go. Her desperation was real, but so was my hurt. I couldn't simply forgive and forget not this time. Here's what's going to happen, I said firmly. I meant what I said about stopping the payments. That's non-negotiable. However, I'm not completely heartless. I'll give you 30 days to figure out your next steps, and during that time, I'll help you create an actual budget and financial plan. Hope flickered in her eyes. You'll help me. I'll help you learn to help yourself, I clarified. But there will be conditions, and they're not just financial. We need to address the entire family dynamic. Amanda nodded rapidly. Anything, just tell me what you need. First, I want a family meeting. All of us, including Jordan, if she's truly important to you. But this time I won't be standing on the doorstep. We'll meet on neutral territory and we'll have an honest conversation about everything. Mom and Dad might not agree to that, she said hesitantly. Then they've chosen their side, I replied, and you'll need to start looking for a cheaper apartment or a roommate situation immediately. The color drained from Amanda's face. I'll make sure they come. Second, I want complete financial transparency from you. Bank statements, credit card bills, pay stubs. Everything. If I'm going to help you create a sustainable plan, I need to know exactly what we're dealing with. She looked uncomfortable but nodded agreement. Third, I want apologies. Real ones, not excuses or justifications. From you, from mom, from dad. Acknowledgement of how I've been treated and commitments to change. And if we do all that, she asked tentatively, will you keep helping with the rent? No, I said firmly. That part of our relationship is over. But I won't cut you out of my life completely, which is what you're really afraid of, isn't it? Not just losing the money, but losing your safety net entirely. Her tears answered for her. Despite everything, she was still my sister, and some part of me still cared what happened to her. But things could never go back to the way they were, and we both knew it. Call mom and dad, I said, gesturing to her phone. Set up the meeting for tomorrow, a restaurant somewhere public. I'll text you a list of the financial documents to bring. And Amanda, don't try to manipulate me or minimize what happened. This is your one chance to salvage any kind of relationship with me. She nodded solemnly, pulling out her phone with shaking hands. I watched as she made the call, explaining the situation to our parents in halting words. I could hear my mother's voice on the other end, initially resistant, then increasingly concerned, as Amanda made it clear this wasn't optional. Finally, arrangements were made for lunch the following day at a neutral restaurant downtown. As Amanda left my hotel room, she paused at the door. I am sorry, Nadia, for everything. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know that. I nodded, not quite ready to accept her apology, but acknowledging it had been offered. It was a start, however small, and more than I had expected from this confrontation. After she left, I sat down and began making notes for the upcoming meeting. This would be unlike any family discussion we'd ever had. For the first time, I would be setting the agenda, and I was determined that every painful truth would be brought into the light. The family meeting at the restaurant was tense from the moment we all arrived. I had chosen a quiet corner table where we would have privacy without being completely isolated. I arrived first, selecting a seat that would allow me to face everyone directly. My parents arrived next, both looking uncomfortable and slightly defensive. Amanda came last with Jordan surprisingly in tow. She had taken my invitation seriously, it seemed. Thank you all for coming, I began once we were seated. My tone was calm and professional, as if this were a business meeting rather than a family reconciliation. In many ways it was. We were here to negotiate the terms of our future relationship if there was to be one at all. Nadia, before you start, your mother and I want to apologize for what happened yesterday, my father said, attempting to take control of the conversation immediately. It was a misunderstanding, and things were said in the heat of the moment that weren't meant. Were they not meant? Or were they not meant to be said aloud? I asked pointedly. Because rejection rarely happens in a vacuum. It's usually the culmination of long-standing patterns. My mother shifted uncomfortably in her seat. We never meant to make you feel unwelcome in the family, Nadia. You're the one who moved away. You're the one who chose a life across the ocean. I chose a career opportunity, I corrected her. I didn't choose to be excluded from family events or to be replaced by someone else. I glanced at Jordan, who had the grace to look embarrassed. No one replaced you, my father insisted. Jordan is just Amanda's friend who's been spending time with the family. Jordan introduced herself as Amanda's new sister, I reminded him. That wasn't my interpretation. Those were her exact words. All eyes turned to Jordan, who cleared her throat nervously. I shouldn't have said that. It was inappropriate, and I apologize. Amanda has talked about you so much, and I guess I was trying to fill a gap in the family while you were gone. But I never intended to take your place. I appreciated her directness more than I had expected to. Thank you for that acknowledgement. But this isn't just about one comment or one moment at the door. This is about years of feeling like an outsider in my own family. I turned back to my parents. While I've been building my career abroad, sending money home to support Amanda, and trying to maintain relationships with all of you, despite the distance, you've been creating a family narrative that doesn't include me. Holiday gatherings. I wasn't told about celebrations I was excluded from. And most recently, a Thanksgiving dinner where there wasn't even symbolically a place set for me. We didn't know you were coming, my mother protested weakly. That's not the point, I replied. The point is that when I did come, your instinct wasn't joy or welcome, but rejection. You didn't say, "What a wonderful surprise, let me set another place." You said, "We weren't expecting you, go away, loser." Those words will stay with me for the rest of my life. My mother had the decency to look ashamed. I didn't mean it like that. How else could you possibly have meant it? I asked, my voice finally betraying some of the hurt I still felt. There was no answer, just uncomfortable silence. And then there's the financial situation. I continued, turning to Amanda. As requested, did you bring the documents I asked for? Amanda nodded, pulling a folder from her bag and sliding it across the table to me. I opened it and began reviewing the contents: bank statements, credit card bills, her apartment lease pay stubs from her job. The picture they painted was even worse than I had imagined. According to this, your marketing job pays $38,000 annually before taxes, I observed. Your rent is $3,000 a month for a luxury apartment downtown. Your credit cards are maxed out at a combined $32,000 with minimum payments totaling over $800 monthly. You're spending around $500 a month on dining out and entertainment. I looked up at her. Even with my $2,200 a month contribution, these numbers don't add up to a sustainable lifestyle. Amanda stared at the table, unable to meet my gaze or anyone else's. You told us you were making $65,000 at your job, my father said to Amanda, shock evident in his voice. You said you got that big promotion last year. I lied, Amanda admitted quietly. I was embarrassed. Nadia was doing so well in London, and I didn't want to be seen as the failure of the family. So instead of being honest about your struggles, you created a facade of success while taking money from your sister secretly, I summarized, and meanwhile presenting an image to the family that excluded me entirely. No one had a response to that. The truth laid bare in black and white financial statements and plainly spoken words was undeniable. Here's my proposal, I said, after letting the silence stretch uncomfortably. Amanda, you need to move to an apartment you can actually afford, which, based on your current salary and debt, should cost no more than $1,000 a month, possibly with roommates. You need to cut up your credit cards and create a repayment plan for the debt you've accumulated. You need to either find a higher-paying job or pick up part-time work to supplement your income. Amanda nodded miserably clearly, overwhelmed by the reality of her situation. As for our family relationship, I continued addressing everyone at the table. I'm setting new boundaries. I will no longer provide financial support to any of you. I will only participate in family events where I am explicitly invited and genuinely welcomed. I will no longer accept being treated as an afterthought or an inconvenience. That seems fair, my father acknowledged, looking genuinely remorseful for perhaps the first time. We've taken you for granted, Nadia. Your mother and I have been so focused on helping Amanda that we didn't realize how our actions were affecting you. You didn't just take me for granted, I corrected him. You actively excluded me while simultaneously benefiting from my financial support of Amanda. You created a family dynamic where my achievements were minimized while Amanda's struggles were hidden and enabled. My mother, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. I never realized how much favoritism we've shown to Amanda over the years. Seeing those financial statements, hearing how you've been supporting her while we celebrated her false success, it forces me to see things differently. She reached across the table, attempting to take my hand, but I kept my hands firmly in my lap. I'm truly sorry, Nadia. What I said at the door was unforgivable. I haven't decided yet if it's unforgivable, I replied honestly. But forgiveness, if it comes, will require changed behavior, not just words of remorse when you're faced with consequences. The conversation continued for nearly 2 hours, delving into painful memories and patterns that had defined our family for decades. There were tears primarily from Amanda and my mother, and moments of genuine connection as hard truths were finally acknowledged. Jordan mostly listened, occasionally offering insights about how she had observed the family dynamic from the outside, which provided a useful perspective. By the end of the meal, we had reached a series of agreements. Amanda would give notice on her apartment and find more affordable housing within her means. My parents would stop enabling her financially and instead help her develop actual independence. Family events would be communicated clearly to everyone with no exclusions. And most importantly, we would commit to honest communication moving forward even when it was uncomfortable. It wasn't a perfect resolution. Years of hurt couldn't be erased in one conversation, no matter how productive. But it was a beginning, a foundation upon which we might eventually build a healthier family relationship. As we prepared to leave, Amanda asked tentatively, "Will you come to Christmas, Nadia? We'll set a place for you at the table, I promise." I considered the question carefully. "I'll think about it, but if I do come, it will be because I want to, not because I feel obligated, and I'll expect to be treated with the same respect and consideration as any other family member." It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a no either. It was an opening a possibility that hadn't existed 24 hours earlier. And for now, that was enough. I returned to London with a new perspective on family and relationships. The confrontation had been painful but necessary, a lancing of a wound that had been festering for years. In its wake, I felt lighter, unburdened by expectations I could never meet, and obligations that had drained me emotionally and financially. Jessica welcomed me back with open arms and a bottle of expensive champagne, the celebration for my promotion that my family should have provided. We toasted to new beginnings and to the family we chose rather than the one we were born into. "I'm proud of you," she said, clinking her glass against mine. "Standing up to them couldn't have been easy." "It wasn't," I admitted, "but it was necessary. For all of us." In the months that followed, I focused on my career and my friendships, investing time and energy in relationships that were reciprocal and nourishing. I traveled, explored new hobbies, and began building a life that was fully my own, not defined by family expectations or obligations. Communication with my family continued, but it was different now. There were still awkward moments and old patterns that threatened to reassert themselves, but there was also a new awareness on all sides. My parents made efforts to acknowledge my achievements and include me in family news even from a distance. They sent regular emails and made time for video calls, small gestures that nevertheless represented significant change. Amanda's transformation was perhaps the most dramatic. True to her word, she gave up her luxury apartment and moved into a shared house with 3 roommates, cutting her housing costs by more than half. She took a second job on weekends, working at a local coffee shop to supplement her income. She began a strict budget and debt repayment plan, sending me weekly updates on her progress. At first, I suspected this change was motivated primarily by fear of losing my financial support permanently. But as months passed, I saw genuine growth in her messages and behavior. She began to take pride in her independence, in making her own way without relying on others to bail her out. She even started a small side business, doing social media management for local businesses, leveraging skills from her marketing job to create additional income. Our relationship as sisters was slowly healing too. Without the financial dynamic creating inequality and resentment, we were finding our way back to the connection we had shared as children before competition and comparison had driven us apart. We exchanged frequent texts and had regular video chats, sharing the details of our daily lives and rebuilding trust one conversation at a time. The first holiday after the confrontation was tense, but ultimately positive. I decided to visit for a few days around Christmas, staying in a hotel rather than at the family home to maintain my independence. The family dinner was awkward at times, with everyone hyper-aware of past patterns, but there was also genuine warmth and efforts at inclusion. My place at the table was set with care. My favorite foods were prepared, and my parents made a point of asking about my work and actually listening to the answers. Jordan was still present in Amanda's life, but the new sister narrative had been dropped completely. Instead, she was introduced simply as Amanda's close friend, a designation that felt honest and appropriate. As the months turned into a year and then 2, the changes in our family dynamic solidified. We weren't perfect, and there were still moments of friction and misunderstanding, but the foundation had shifted from one of inequality and exclusion to one of mutual respect and honest communication. Amanda eventually paid off her credit card debt and saved enough for a deposit on a small but affordable apartment of her own. She called me the day she signed the lease, voice brimming with pride. "It's not fancy, but it's mine, and I can afford it without help from anyone. I never thought I'd say this, but thank you for cutting me off financially. It was the wake-up call I needed." My parents, too, had evolved in their understanding of family dynamics. My mother, in particular, had done significant reflection on her role in creating the unhealthy patterns that had defined our relationships for so long. I always favored Amanda because she seemed to need more, she admitted during one of our conversations. "You were so capable and independent that I thought you didn't need the same attention and support." I see now how wrong that was, how it taught both of you unhealthy lessons about love and worth. These acknowledgments didn't erase the past, but they created space for a different future. We were learning, all of us, how to be family in a way that honored our individual journeys while maintaining meaningful connection. For me, the most profound change was internal. I no longer measured my worth by my family's recognition or approval. I had built a life rich with meaningful work, true friendships, and authentic self-expression. I could engage with my family from a place of choice rather than obligation giving because I wanted to, not because I felt I had to earn my place. The painful rejection on that Thanksgiving doorstep had been a catalyst for growth and transformation that none of us could have anticipated. From the ashes of that humiliation had risen a stronger, more authentic family connection, and more importantly, a stronger, more authentic sense of self. Life isn't about avoiding pain or rejection. It's about what we build in response to those inevitable wounds. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give ourselves is the courage to stand in our truth, even when that truth disrupts comfortable patterns and forces difficult growth. I still believe in family, but my definition has expanded beyond blood ties to encompass all the meaningful connections that sustain and enrich our lives. The family we are born into shapes us, for better or worse. But the family we create through choice and commitment is equally valid and often more nurturing. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members? How did you balance self-respect with the desire to maintain relationships? Share your stories in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more authentic conversations about family dynamics and personal growth. Remember, sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the most meaningful transformations. Thank you for listening to my story, and may you find the courage to stand in your own truth, whatever that looks like for you.